I'll just go sit, and I'm going to be asking the questions, and hopefully we have a good discussion. So for each and every one of you, opening question, because you might want to have the chance to introduce yourself. Please tell us, what is your business and how is that helping us reach the Paris climate goals?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Masha. I work for Robeco. It's a big asset manager. In 2 weeks, we also have a big celebration because we celebrate our 90th birthday. And we invest money from pension funds, from individuals like you, and we invest them in stocks and bonds of companies and governments to make sure that in the end, you know, we all have a nice pension. My personal role is I'm head of sustainability integration. That means actually 3 things. One is that I really need to make sure that our financial, I call them a little bit nerds, they're always have a kind of a tunnel vision on numbers, that they also take into account in making their investment decisions how companies actually treat environment, how they treat their employees, how they look at their supply chain. So that's one. So really take that into account when you make an investment decision.
Very quickly, the last 2 ones.
Oh, sorry. 2, engage for change. Let them know that we are the shareholder and what we think they should do. And 3, I talk a lot with clients, and if I can just let them invest a little bit more sustainably, that's going to really help achieve the goals.
Thank you. Mark.
Yeah, my business is stopping climate change. And we do that by making sure the oil industry stops investing in more oil and gas and starts investing all these billions in new business models in renewable energy. We started with Shell, very simple, by making sure people became green shareholder. Send an email to Shell, hi Ben, I'm your newest shareholder, you can change the world. You have my support. And putting this on the agenda of the AGM, this annual shareholder meeting. And in 2017, we put on the shareholder meeting, please commit yourself to the Paris Climate Agreement. And in 2017, thanks to the support of 5,000 green shareholders, Bart is one of them, and big investors in the Netherlands, Shell changed course and set a target to really start investing in the renewables. And
great.
And let me say one thing, investors support this because they fully understand that they cannot make a decent profit in a world which is devastated by climate change. They say to these oil majors, of course it's a huge risk to change your business, but the risk of business as usual is much higher.
Thank you. Joris.
Hello. Mic's working, can you hear me? Yeah. My company is called The Factory. We help homeowners to make their home fossil-free and energy neutral. This is a complex process and we help to make it very simple, and it's also costly for homeowners, and we provide the homeowner the possibility to not pay upfront. You pay a membership fee, a monthly fee, and for that fee we make the home fossil-free and energy neutral.
Okay. So everyone is in the business of entrepreneurship and trying to reach the Paris climate goals. In terms of entrepreneurship, whether a startup or a big corporate CEO, which sort of role model, which entrepreneur do you admire most? And it cannot be Elon Musk. I had to brief them before that.
And it only has to be one, but I have 2. One, I really like chocolate, so I think the Tony story is fantastic, and you'll hear it later today.
Yep.
And second, my CEO is someone that started really early already. It's Peter Bakker. He used to be the CFO and CEO of TNT Post and TNT Express. And he was one of the first CEOs really to go for sustainability. And he is now the president of the World Council for Sustainable Business. So I think someone who is in a very early stage already really showed leadership in that area.
Mark.
I like to name Pieter van Alphen. Nobody, not many of you know him. It's an entrepreneur who started more than 20 years ago. With the conviction that we need to get off fossil fuels and start getting on renewables. He started selling heat pumps in the 90s because he believed in it, and he was, of course, laughed at. I like this kind of people who really have a vision and stick with it.
And was his business
for a long
successful?
Time. No, it was not successful, but he kept on going, and
yep.
he just sold his company. So he, at the end, after more than 20 years, I think he
maybe a bit too
made
early.
it. But we need this kind of, compared to these kind of guys, yours and myself are just party crashers who just enter the scene when these people already are working on it for 20 years.
I would say Jaap Korteweg, Dutch guy who made meatless meat tasty. Because Willem was talking about not eating meat. For a lot of people that's difficult because they're used to the taste. And Jaap with the vegetarian butcher made meatless meat tasteful.
Yeah. Hey, and I really want to drill down a little bit on, starting too early, starting too small, having an impact. Where do you do that, and how do you change the world? And maybe starting with you, Joris. I mean, your proposition is, making individuals' home ready for a fossil-free future.
Yes.
One by one.
Yes.
When are you going to be done? I mean, doesn't that take too long? How does that scale?
No, if you make it very simple and the homeowner does not have to invest themselves, you take away all the boundary, all the reasons to say no, then why shouldn't they do it tomorrow? So I don't see that it will take a long time. It can go very fast because we make it so easy.
Yeah, but do you see yourself grow very aggressively to be able to serve all these individual homeowners?
That's the ambition, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
How are you going to do that?
Oh, how?
Yeah.
Well, as I said, by making it very simple and giving the homeowner the opportunity to not invest themselves in the equipment or think about the technology they need, because it's very complicated to make a home fossil-free and energy neutral. Okay. We take away all those technology decisions and also the investment.
Yeah. So 6 million homes in the Netherlands?
8.
8 million homes in the Netherlands?
We focus on Western Europe because that's almost all homes in Western Europe are heated with either gas or oil, and that should go away. That's 100 million homes. So that's the market we're aiming for.
So that's a very, very big opportunity.
Yes.
Okay. And maybe also getting back to Mark, in terms of being this one guy, sort of the donkey shot, trying to change the industry. How do you make an impact? How you change the course of this sort of super tanker?
Yeah, trying to convince big investors that this is really necessary, and they one by one start understanding that it needs to be done. Although the oil majors, especially the boards of the oil majors, they are very reluctant to change. And I fully understand, they've been successful in oil and gas for 30 years. So it's difficult for them to imagine a world beyond oil and gas, but we need to help them and support them and say, you really have to do this. Huge risk, but risk of business as usual is bigger.
And Masha, I mean, probably Mark has already been pounding on the door of Robeco.
Many times, yes.
How does that go?
Well, I want to explain at Robeco, we are not an activist shareholder, but we are active shareholders. So we have been actually, since 2005, already 14 years, we understand that we have a responsibility as investors to talk to the companies that we invest in and to make sure that they adhere to what we believe is making sure that they have a long-term, on a long-term path to create value. As I said, we're already investing for 90 years. Yep. And we want to successfully remain investing for the next 90 years. And I, just like Mark, truly believe that if companies do not make the energy transition, that's going to be very difficult for them. So we have already been talking to them for many, many years, and we also really respect and appreciate Mark's efforts to also...
But you did not vote for his resolution?
No, we abstained because we were also already talking to the company, and I think the end result, you also already mentioned, is fantastic because they have really committed to achieving lower carbon intensity. Also, the management will be absolutely held accountable, so they will have less remuneration if they don't reach it, and they are going to also report on it to make sure that everyone can see where they are in the trajectory. So I think that's a fantastic
We'll save your response to that for another time, because you probably have something to say about it as well. But
I will bite my tongue.
I want to move on to something else, and it is about the big corps versus the small entrepreneurs. Right? Where should we invest our time? I mean, Joris, you sold your company QB to Eneco.
Yes.
And while technically you were not working at Eneco, because you were still at QB, and Eneco is just this sort of shareholder, you were there in the period of Jeroen de Haas, and you had the opportunity from the inside to change the course of Eneco and maybe create a very big impact. But after 2 years, you left.
Yes.
Why didn't you stay on and try to push, change within the big incumbents?
Yeah.
And why are you, starting on house by house, changing the world?
Well, first is because my company was not for sale. So when Eneco asked me to sell the company, that was a one-time offer. And I said, okay, but it's too early. So I need a few more years to grow the company at a certain level. So that took about 2 years. And then my added value was limited. So it was time to leave the company and start something new.
So, but you did not see the opportunity to, sort of get the momentum of Jeroen de Haas and really push Eneco in a new, fully sustainable direction?
No, because in the end, Eneco is an energy company focusing on providing electricity and gas to their customers. And
Yep.
the things I do with my new company are the future, but it's still too small for a large company to focus too much time on.
Okay. Is it fair to ask big companies with an existing business model like Shell, like Eneco, they sell fossil energy for profit? Is it fair to ask them to say goodbye to that business model? Or is it just never going to happen?
Well, it depends on the time. If you tell them tomorrow, then I would say, no, that's not fair. But if you tell them as soon as possible, then I believe that's fair. Because I call companies like that, they are Titanic. So they are big and they're still moving, but they're going down. So the sooner the better.
You believe that, that Shell will be around in 30 years?
Shell?
Yeah.
That's a good question. No.
No?
No.
That's a pretty bold statement.
Yes.
Because they won't be able to make the transition to the new energy quick enough.
Titanic.
Titanic. Mark, do you think they're still around in 30 years?
They have to be around, but they have to be a completely different company.
Okay.
Yeah.
If they're able to make a change.
The normal course of history is exactly as Joris said, that these companies, incumbents, they change far too slow, they become Kodaks, and they become bankrupt.
Okay.
The only
Masha,
problem we have
Masha,
now is that they will draw the world into the abyss with them as well, so we need them to change.
Okay, well, before we go all doomsaying, let's move to Masha. Do you see it different? Do you see the opportunity where they will?
Yeah, I agree.
The big
I mean,
incumbents
they
will-
have to change. That is a
Yeah.
prerequisite for their growth going forward. So really, I agree with you.
But are you
fully.
optimistic that they can
I am
change?
optimistic of nature. So,
But can they change
yeah.
quick enough and say goodbye to our old business model?
We'll have to see. But we are at least trying to get them to change.
I would say
The
that's
investors will not
negative.
accept it if they don't want to change. The investors
Well,
will
we
not
cannot
accept it.
invest, yeah.
Sorry,
I
yours.
wouldn't say that's a bad thing, because the companies are just companies. They're empty shell. The people are still there, the money is still there. So sometimes it's necessary to really make a change
Okay.
for companies to die, and then we move on.
We
So
move
it's not
on,
a bad thing.
So it's creative destruction,
Yes.
right? Okay, so if you move to maybe another industry like transportation, car industry, obviously big disruption, Tesla. Which of these where do you see, who's going to be the winners? Are there any incumbents going to be really winning it, or is it all going to be coming from new startups?
Can I take that one?
Yeah,
Or-
sure.
Because when we look at the car industry, and we see a lot of opportunities in e-mobility and smart mobility, but it's like when you had the gold rush in the old days in America. People went there to get gold, but it weren't the ones that are actually getting the gold that were, having a sustainable business model. But it was someone like Levi Strauss who was providing the jeans for them. So we see that same opportunities in the car sector, where we say, okay, people that can make lightweight materials, that can make good batteries, that can, supply these things to the auto industry, that can actually help them create those autos of the future. These are the ones that are going to be the most interesting investments in the long run.
Okay, so talking about investments, I think everyone's pretty much aware that there's a sort of an endless amount of money out there with negative interest rates, etc. So any sort of entrepreneur startup can happen. Is there, for institutional investors, is the volume of all these startups, is it big enough even to put all your money in, or do you just need to have all these old incumbent industries to also yourself still make a profit?
Yeah, this is an issue that I indeed see, that there's a lot of money around that really wants to have an impact, really wants to invest in projects or startups, but if you're a big pension fund, it's very difficult to invest in all these small startups. So a nice example that we have is that we have a gender equality fund where we invest in leaders in gender equality. So they have good policies, they have more women on the board, more women in management, etc. They're really leaders in that aspect. They can be big companies. So then we can actually invest a lot of money, but part of the return then will be given to impact projects to further increase equality. So I think, innovative ways of thinking of how can we actually invest large amount of money in smaller projects is something that we really need.
The question is also, I think, how can entrepreneurs like Joris scale quick enough that we can put enough money in you? Do you see, where's your biggest thing holding you back now? Why would you not be 10 times bigger or 100 times bigger?
No, it's not money. No. It's just any company growing from a startup to a scale up to a real company, that's complex. It takes time. Take your company.
It just takes time.
It's a big challenge.
Yeah. Are we going to be quick enough?
For what? To save the planet, you
mean? To make sure we reach the Paris climate goals.
No, not the way we are going right now.
Okay.
So some of the things have to really change. Like Willem spoke about the meat and moving to vegan. It's not enough to just start eating meat replacements sometimes or buy electric vehicle. That's not enough. We really have to realize that and it's not a bad thing. I always say this, all this move about changing our behavior to be able to live longer on this planet, it's not bad. I believe everything we can do to extend our stay here is good. Because all the inventions I see, the electric car, the food, how you see how healthy Willem looks, by being vegan, it's all good. And if you look at the people who go to McDonald's all the time, it's not so good. So it's all good. So I don't worry about it, but we really have to wake up and change faster.
Okay. As one thing about energy and industries, etc., that sort of blew my mind last week, and Diederik Samson, who is a former sort of a banned bomb Greenpeace rebel, I studied with him in Delft. And he's sort of the most anti-nuclear guy in the Netherlands ever. Last week he wrote about the benefits of nuclear energy. What happened? Did hell just freeze over, Mark? Should we have nuke startups? Should we, you can deploy a lot of money in that. Is that an opportunity?
I think it will never happen because it's far too expensive. It's far too expensive to build these factories, and it's far too expensive to store the polluted nuclear waste for hundreds of years. So
never going to happen.
It's never going to happen. In the UK, they're building one nuclear plant now.
Yep.
It's subsidized twice as heavy as wind farms, and it's subsidized by the British government. It's built by a Chinese company and a French government company. So this will never happen in the commercial world.
Okay. Never going to happen. We have about 8 more minutes left. I'm going to be looking, but I don't see a lot. I'm going to be looking at the audience if there's anyone wanting to ask a question to our panel here, and otherwise we'll be moving on a little bit to the closing of the panel. Is there anyone sort of reaching there, putting up their hands from the slido.com? No? Good, yeah, sure, please. I'm going to try to listen to you and then repeat the question. There's a mic.
Hi everyone, my name is Jan Schoones. I was wondering, because we're here with the business, let's say, in the digital, what do you expect of the politics actually to change things? Because everyone is saying like we're not going fast enough, etc. So that has to come as well from the state or the states or European Union or whatever. So just your quick opinion about that one.
Okay. So did anyone get the questions? The question is, what do we expect from politics to influence this process? Is there anyone volunteer? Mark, I think.
We need from politics exactly the same as we need from you, from CEOs, from investors. And this is bold and brave decisions. Bold and brave decisions. The only thing we need. It's technically no problem, it's economically no problem. Now they're talking about it's maybe some people will not like it, but they have to just take decisions. And it's not a problem. Sun gives enough energy within an hour to power the whole world. We have the technology there, we have smart engineers. So the only people who are slowing it down are the top of the incumbents.
Okay, Masha.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I mean, we need better regulation, but regulation is probably always in a transition going to be the last thing that happens. You see the same thing with data privacy in the US. The regulation is really coming after already. You know, market participants have seen that this is going to be an issue, and it's pricing in the market. So as investors, we want to look forward, and we want to invest in those companies that are already making the transition. And yeah, regulators really need to follow, because if we want to speed it up, then regulation is going to be key. Things like carbon tax or a smart way of getting companies to pay for their pollution, that's going to be very important.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
this also means that these multinationals who are more powerful than most companies should stop lobbying for slowing down and start lobbying for subsidies for renewables.
But in all fairness, Mr. Ben van Beurden always points to politics and says, guys, please give me a regulatory framework.
Yeah, and then he says worldwide.
That's
worldwide.
easy. Yeah.
Okay,
That's easy
so
said.
let's not go too deep into that. Closing question for everyone on the stage here. In 50 years' time, 2070, you know, our grandkids are going to be looking back at today, and they're going to say, what about what we all here did today? What are they going to say?
Well, if we're going as we are now, in 50 years' time, we'll have huge problems. So, you know, we're going to have mass migration, we're going to have a huge 4-degree increase in climate, so that's not a good scenario. So I was wanted to say to you guys in the room that, you know, you might want to eat less meat, fly less, but please, when you go back to work on Monday, look at what you're doing, because you have the biggest impact when you go to work. I with my investments, you with... I had a very nice presentation on accessibility of websites, for example, things that you can actually do to improve. I think that is, for me, the most important thing. And also take a look at your pension fund and see how that's invested. And then hopefully, yeah, that would help me. Hopefully, you know, if we do all that, our kids are going to be, and our grandkids are going to be very happy.
Mark.
Yeah. In 2070, my grandchildren, your children, will really hold us accountable for the world they're living in. So they will say, okay, you knew exactly what the problem was, you knew exactly what the solution was, what did you do about it?
Joris?
I would say it's similar to what my kids ask me now today, is did people really smoke in restaurants when you were young? They can't understand that. But what maybe most people don't realize is every home has an exhaust pipe like a car, and that pipe is polluting all the time, especially in Amsterdam. And I would say in my business, my grandchildren will ask me, Granddad, did people in 2019 really have an exhaust pipe on their home and an exhaust pipe on their car, which polluted the air they breathed?
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Guys, thank you very much. And this closes up our panel for today.